As the Rebel Alliance formed the New Republic, the Patchwork Alliance fleet was given the unenviable task of providing security and peace in a galaxy which for 2 decades had been ruled over by an iron fist. Today, we'll examine the ships, programs, and strategies that turned a fledgling military into one that stood up against the Yuuzhan Vong, while also documenting the 4 eras of the New Republic Navy. These eras are largely defined by the dominant military doctrine of the time and, to a lesser extent, the threats faced by the galaxy. This leads to the first era of the New Republic Navy, starting in 4 ABY immediately after Endor and concluding in 8 ABY. I'll call it the early days. The first few months after Endor were difficult. The Alliance had not even adopted the New Republic moniker when faced with the threat of a Cyroo invasion. Obviously, new ship production had not started, and the Alliance could only spare a single Quasar carrier and some escort ships, which I think gives a good perspective on just how resource-stricken the Navy was at this time. However, not long after this early conflict, the Rebels would form the Alliance of Free Planets, and later, the New Republic. The first injection of life into the New Republic Navy came through diplomatic means. As Mon Mothma spread emissaries across the galaxy, systems which joined the New Republic sometimes contributed vessels. Besides for that, the New Republic was also phasing in Star Destroyers like the Emancipator, which were captured during or after the Battle of Endor. However, the galaxy was far from peaceful during this time, and those who led the New Republic knew if the government was ever to achieve legitimacy, it would need to not only capture Coruscant, but also defeat roving Imperial warlords while providing security against outside threats. Organizationally, the space forces of the New Republic were divided into 4 groups, fleets 1 through 4, though the distinction would not be fully fortified until after the capture of Coruscant. New Republic forces were very flexible at this point. Fleet deployments were usually based on galactic geography, but individual battle groups could move between commands, and subfleets were often deployed independently. Nonetheless, as I explained earlier, the fleet at this point was made up mostly of donated ships and former Alliance vessels. Recognizing the need to not only create a proper navy, but also to counter the thousands of remaining active Star Destroyers within the galaxy, New Republic leadership turned to the Mon Calamari. 6 months after the Battle of Endor, the New Republic formally commissioned the MC-90 line of cruisers, which was envisioned as the new mainline capital ship for the New Republic. Alongside that, research and production began on several other ship types, including the Republic Star Destroyer, the Corona Frigate, and the Belarus Destroyer. Unfortunately, due to resource constraints, the initial MC-90s and the other ships wouldn't be ready for an additional 4 years, and an interim vessel was needed. This is where the MC-80B comes in. The MC-80B was more powerful than most standard Mon Calamari cruisers, notably with additional hull strength, fighter capacity, and redundant shielding. What's more, the first MC-80Bs would be ready in just under 12 months. The new MC-80Bs, including the Mon Ramonda, first of the line, would serve admirably as the more powerful MC-90s continued their development. MC-80Bs led New Republic fleets during countless early engagements, including the capture of Coruscant and the hunt for Zinj. Other new MC-80 variants may have also saw action at this point, though the B is certainly the most notable, and was really the Republic workhorse in these early years. Era 2 is what I refer to as steps towards modernization, then conflict, and takes place between 8 ABY and 11 ABY. It represents a pivot between a nascent New Republic and a full-formed galactic government and military. It was dominated by conflict, including Thrawn's devastating campaigns against the New Republic, and the emergence of a monstrous armada led by a clone Palpatine from the deep core. As the first ships of the MC-90 line approached completion, the New Republic continued to look towards the future, and began work on the Defender Project. The Defender Project represented an ultra-modernization of Rebel Alliance naval tactics, with the design of a new line of efficient pocket Star Destroyers and self-sufficient carriers. The new Defenders were to form the front line of the New Republic's military, though only the Defender Starfighter was completed before the emergence of Thrawn and the Dark Empire. However, sometime before those two catastrophes, the first line of MC-90s, Republic Star Destroyers, and other aforementioned ships entered service. Alongside capital ships, the New Republic also introduced new starfighters, notably the E-Wing, which was envisioned as eventually replacing the X-Wing as the faction's space superiority fighter. However, ship production across the galaxy was heavily interrupted by the two conflicts, as the New Republic fought wars on every front, and saw two of their most important worlds, Mon Cala and Coruscant, devastated. Era 3 is stabilization, upgrading, and downsizing, and takes place from 11 ABY to 19 ABY, and is characterized by a diminishing Imperial threat and a slimming down of the New Republic's navy. As the galaxy stabilized and New Republic ship production restarted, the New Class Modernization Plan was introduced and accepted by the New Republic Defense Council. The New Class created new vessels at every sub-battlecruiser size and was meant to reinvigorate the New Republic Navy. The capital ships imagined under the Defender project were also integrated into New Class production and called the Endurance and Nebula Star Destroyers. The Nebula was an especially exceptional vehicle and one of the best Star Destroyers in history. The New Republic chose not to follow Imperial ship design, which advocated a focus on large vessels, and the New Class project had no ship over 1 kilometer in length. New class ships were very expensive, but also very efficient. They usually sported less turbolasers than their Imperial counterparts, but boasted better fire control and range alongside better fighters and shielding. Aside from the Endurance and Nebula Star Destroyers, other notable ship types include the Majestic Heavy Cruiser and a variety of Corvette and fighter classes. New fighter types included the K-Wing Heavy Bomber and new X-Wing variants. At the same time, the New Republic 5th Fleet was also created and comprised entirely of new class ships. Unlike the other 4 fleet groups of the New Republic, the 5th was a roving defensive fleet meant for flexible deployment across the galaxy. Significant controversy surrounded the creation of the 5th Fleet, and many saw it as New Republic warmongering or intimidation, but it nonetheless saw action during the Black Fleet crisis, which I've covered in a previous video linked above. During this era, the last major push by the Empire occurred, the Orinda campaign, which saw the New Republic captured Super Star Destroyer Lusankya thrown into action. The Empire was defeated, routed from the deep core, and limited to a small area of space in the galactic north. At this point, the New Republic made a clear choice to build their navy around several modest goals, notably not the projection of power, but instead peacekeeping and defense. With the Duskon League pacified and the Empire irrelevant, the galaxy was fairly peaceful at this point. The New Republic used this stability to downsize, decommissioning many of the aging Alliance era or lower quality vessels, resulting in an overall decrease in ship numbers. The downsizing affected fleets differently. While some forces shrank considerably, but were given new high quality vessels, others swelled in size, but given lower quality ships. Proponents of downsizing during this era pushed the fact that the Republic was a voluntary democracy. Member states should be not only allowed, but required to create standing militaries, which would be the first line of defense during a conflict. In addition, Republic fleets now more closely stuck within their designated area, and forces were heavily customized based on sector needs. With the lesser relevance of Imperial factions and the fact that the remaining fleet was still comprised of thousands of ships, the New Republic strategy here would have been a good one, had the Vong not invaded. And the only thing I'd say is they should have more heavily invested in the New Class program. As I said, the Nebula Star Destroyer was one of the best ships ever seen in galactic history. The New Republic should have furthered their decommissioning efforts and introduced more of these ship types. Era 4 is called Entrenchment and the Yuuzhan Vong War, and is characterized by the creation of the Star Defender line and, of course, the Vong invasion. Although peace between the Empire and the New Republic was formalized in 19 ABY with the Pelion-Gaversim Treaty, the former Empire still heavily influenced New Republic naval strategy, though indirectly. As I alluded to, in 17 ABY, the Duskon League attacked the New Republic with a captured Imperial armada, including several Super Star Destroyers. Previously, the Orinda campaign saw Pelion lead the Imperial remnant against the New Republic with 3 dreadnoughts. Prior to that, the reborn Emperor had assaulted the core with a dozen Super Star Destroyers, taking Coruscant, and of course, warlords like Zinj and Artus Kane had used Super Star Destroyers to terrorize the New Republic in its early years. It was decided then that notwithstanding the New Republic's relative demilitarization and focus on efficiency, that a limited line of large battlecruisers and dreadnoughts should be created to stand against any remaining Super Star Destroyers. The largest of these, including the Viscount and the Strident, were Star Defenders, and could directly combat large Imperial Super Star Destroyers should the need arise. The New Republic also introduced the Mediator battlecruiser, which, as seen during the Ramamul conflict and the name, was supposed to represent a powerful, self-sustained peacekeeping force. Finally, supplementing the New Republic Navy before the Yuuzhan Vong War was the Bothan Assault Cruiser, an Advanced Victory Star Destroyer analog, and the Ranger-class gunship, which was introduced and touted as the galaxy's best anti-starfighter attack platform. At this point, the New Republic still heavily made use of captured Imperial Star Destroyers, and the Battle of Helska IV, the New Republic's first major engagement against the Vong, actually featured the Rejuvenator in Imperial II. This brings us to the invasion itself, and I'll avoid any real detail here as I'm covering the Yuuzhan Vong War in a dedicated series. However, the invasion saw the poor leadership of the New Republic fail to properly respond to an extragalactic alien threat on the Rim, as the Yuuzhan Vong established a foothold in the galaxy and pushed core world Coruscant eventually fell. The government was ripped apart as they lost not only their seat of power and chief of state, but also their legitimacy to many within the military. Wedge Antilles and others would lead what could be best described as a rebel cell for some time until the leadership of Cal Omis reunited the New Republic. In 28 ABY, however, the government was replaced by the Galactic Federation of Free Alliances, and the Navy was thus reorganized, something I can cover in a future video. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and turn those notifications on. Anyway guys, until next time, this has been Eckhart's Ladder. May the Force be with you.